Okay, you can hear that music. That means it's time for Megatrends. And so welcome one and all to Megatrends for today, July 10th, 2025. Oh, there's so much to talk about going on in the world right now. It's scaring the bejeebers out of citizens that are aware of what's going on. Right now, around funding cuts resulting, from the GOP passed BBB bill, and a lot of rural hospitals and schools and are really freaking out about that. But we're going to start the show with a special musical guest today. They're playing at the Pacifica Performances on July 12th, 2025 at 7:30 at the Pacifica Performances is at, and those of you who are local will know that it's at 1220 Lindemar Boulevard, and so they're going to be playing on this Saturday. And so you're going to get a really great taste of some of that right now. So you'll be treated the golden voice of Jim Moore with and his wonderful guitar, and violinist Judy Cruces, also on vocals, beautiful vocals, accompanied by singer Jenny Debevec, who, like your Megatrends weekly host, is a Bay Area educator. And today's show, as I said, will be centered around on education rather than the harmful, chaotic things going on, the cuts going on to U.S. education by the Trump administration. So, by the way, on July 1st, Trump admin froze $6.8 billion in funding across the country, including $811 million to California. And this is on July 1st, like all of a sudden. And this was funding that was already appropriated by Congress. So this is actually a test case to challenge the courts, who will surely rule against these cuts. But of course, Trump will send in his crash test dummies, his legal team, his crash test dummies, to argue this ridiculous case. And typically, after about 5 minutes, they're going to be cut off by the judge and told to stop embarrassing themselves, and then they're dismissed. But that is the starting point. Trump hopes to make this executive order result, claiming judicial overreach. Right, that's how it goes. Hoping to get a 5-4 SCOTUS decision by this hard Supreme Court. Meanwhile, teachers are scrambling, not sure what to do. In a press conference in Sacramento by California State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, called the move the worst than we imagine, and saying it's illegal and will immediately harm students. But those teachers right so far seem really lost as to how to fight the fight. And so that's what Megatrends is here to give, kind of actionable things to do and give. And they are seemingly unaware that this is that this is all spelled out in the details of Project 2025, the undermining of U.S. Public education. And so some of the ACSA administrators were talking on a Zoom about backfilling and the language of capitulation and just accepting the cuts and the firings of thousands of teachers in adult school programs. But this is a 900, so pay attention to that. Google it, the 900-page blueprint, Project 2025. And for a second Trump presidency would gut federal education and sanction discrimination against LGBT and students, and divert taxpayer funds to private schools, and codify book bannings and classroom censorship. And that's just the beginning. But that's for the second half of Megatrends. And but let's flip to our musical guest. We're going to go to our first video, and then we'll be back with Jim Moore and Judy Cruces and Jenny Debevec.
Of our services
in empty classrooms,
our program managers will have to take on the caseload. Which
the summer is a chance to strategize.
We have young people, their families counting on us.
Sacramento's Improve Your Tomorrow is an after-school program trying to make a difference.
We focus on increasing young men of color to get to college and to graduate as well.
From mentorship to college tours, But this program serving over 2,000 Sacramento County students could be in jeopardy.
This program does not happen without funding from school districts.
The administration is punishing children for the sole reason that states refuse to cater to Trump's political ideology. This is an illegal action.
California State Superintendent of Education Tony Thurmond preparing yet another possible legal battle with the Trump administration after Department of Education offices across the country received this message from a no-reply email presumptively sent from a federal agency saying federal grants designated for 5 educational programs is on hold pending a review. They were supposed to be awarded today. Dollars meant for programs for English learners, migrant education, teacher development, and after-school programs to name a few, citing ensuring taxpayer resources are spent in accordance with the president's priorities. We asked the state superintendent about what this message means exactly for California.
They haven't defined that in any way.
So you have no idea what that means by not aligning with the Trump administration's policies?
We don't know what it means other than the kinds of things that they've said before this election, that they don't support immigrant students, that they don't support LGBTQ plus students. But we say that's not how you govern.
With the school year for some California districts just weeks away, the superintendent says these are funds school districts expected to have. It could now even lead to staffing cuts.
Everyone's in the same position. They're scrambling. They have no idea what this means and what the impacts are. We can't even get the information out of the U.S. Department of Education about what's being funded and what's not.
He says they're now preparing to take legal action if necessary, as states across the country wait to see what happens next. In Sacramento, Cecil Hannibal, KCRA 3 News.
KCRA 3 contacted the Federal Department of Education, which then sent us to the Federal Office of Management and Budget. An administration official said, quote, "The superintendent is mistaken. This is an ongoing programmatic review of education funding. Nothing has been impounded. But again, Congress approved the money to go to the states today, and it has not been sent out."
Well, here we are live. We're flipping from the world of chaos to the world of order. And of course, this is our musical order here. And we have our members, Jim Moore on guitar, and your friend, Mr. and Mrs. Moore's son, Jim, who grew up, became a guitar player and great singer. And his 2 daughters are here. He's got the whole family here. And Judy Cruzes on the violin, and also Jenny Debevec. Debevec. Yeah. Yes. And she's on vocals and morale. She said in morale, but she's also a local educator at the Portola Elementary School and also a college consultant. So it's wonderful that we have this great mix. So anything that people should know before you get started?
Yeah, we're going to be playing this Saturday night at the Pacifica Performances on Linamar Boulevard, and we play every Saturday night at the Beach Chalet on the Great Highway.
Okay, so let's hear them, and please welcome them. You can clap at home. I want to hear.
We're going to start out with an original tune called "How Long Is Forever This Time." Wrote this song with David McKechnie. You say you found someone new, and everything's going to be real fine. No doubt in your mind you're gonna love him forever. But how long, how long is forever this time? He says arms are the arms that you long for. Remember when you long for mine. Remember when you whispered forever, baby. Well, how long is forever this time? Forever the worlds keep turning, forever the sun will shine. How can you say forever and go and change your mind? How long, how long is forever this time? Did you tell him the story? The one with your famous line. How your love is like a river that just flows on forever. Well, how long, how long, it's forever this time. Forever worlds keep turning, forever the sun will shine. How can you say forever, then go and change your mind? How long, how long, it's forever this time. How long, baby, it's forever this time. How long, girl, it's forever this time.
All right, thank you. Again, it's Jim Moore. I'm Jenny DeBevick, and this is Judy Cruces. And these are also music teachers in the Bay Area, as well as professional performers.
And a special shout out to Johnny DeMarco, our sound man and percussionist.
Thanks, Johnny. Thank you, Johnny.
This original tune called The Mountain. Seven lonely nights I've waited for the storm to pass. Horses tied up near the water, saddles loose to move fast. The firewood has dwindled, staples too nearly gone. And it seems like a million miles, the road back home. The mountain knows no faith, no breath, no blood. The river knows no pain, no tears, no shame. Sometimes there's just no telling where this road finally ends. Just last weekend I was drinking Wild Rose with friends. The mountain knows no faith, no breath, no blood. The river knows no pain, no tears, no shame. Can't go over the snow-capped ridge. The raging water's taking out the bridge, out the bridge. The mountain knows no faith, no breath, no blood. The river knows no pain, no tears, no shame. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now we're going to do a song by Gordon Lightfoot. in the early morning rain, with $1 in my hand and an aching in my heart, and my pockets full of sand. I'm a long, long way from home, and I miss my loved ones so. In the early morning rain, oh, with nowhere to go, out on runway number 9, big 707 set to go, and I'm stuck here on the grass with the pain that ever grows. Oh, the liquor tasted good, and the women all were fast. Oh, there she goes, my friend. She'll be rolling down at last. Hear that mighty engine roar, see that silver wing on high. She's away and westward bound, far above the clouds she'll fly, where the morning rain don't fall and the sun always shines. She'll be flying over my home, oh, in about 3 hours' time. This old airport's got me down. It's no earthly good to me, and I'm stuck here on the ground, cold and drunk as I might be. You can't jump a jet plane like you can a freight train, so I best be on my way. Oh, in the early morning rain, you can't jump a jet plane like you can a freight train, so I best be on my way. Oh, in the early morning rain, so I best be on my way. Oh, in the early morning rain. Thank you.
Yeah, that song just keeps on giving.
Should we just do one more?
Yeah, let's just do one more. We're gonna do. This is a great song, I think.
Another original song called "The Center Will Not Hold."
Based on a poem, very important
play with us,
poem.
Pat?
We're gonna bring up our friend Patrick.
Johnny, do you want to bring shakers up? Just bring them up.
If you have an instrument, just go ahead and play it.
I see rain is falling, it's storming out tonight. The wind is blowing crazy and the timing isn't right. I'm not waiting for the morning, I'm not waiting for the sun. The dawn's not my salvation anymore.
The rain has swallowed up the highway, there's no stars that I can see. A piece of moon is tangled in the branches of a tree. All the watches have stopped ticking and the lights have gone out. There's a bottle and it's shattered on the floor.
Oh, the center will not hold. The center will not hold. Oh, the center will not hold. The center will not hold. There's a shortcut to the tower, but the woods are dark and deep. My dog is dead and buried, and the priest is still asleep. There's no bushes burning, the prophet's out of print. The needle isn't pointing to the north.
I can hear the whistle blowing, but I don't know which train to take. I wanna burn his letters, but this fireplace is fake. Mama's picture on the mantle is as silent as a stone. There's no one to point the way or hold the door.
Oh,
the center will not hold. The center will not hold. Oh, the center will not hold. The center will not hold.
I've been staring at the window, but I can't see the ground. Someone called a total, and the room is spinning round. I might head to Arizona, I just might end up in Maine.
But I can't stay in Kansas anymore. Oh, the map is on the table, it's open like a prayer. I tried to find the Bible, but can't find it anywhere. The answers are not written, they're not blowing in the wind, and I'm not betting on forgiveness anymore.
The center will not hold. The center will not hold. Oh, the center will not hold. The center will not hold. Oh, the center will not hold. The center will not hold. Thank you, Pat, for having us.
Thank you. Good stuff. Let's hear it for the band and also for the daughters. There's our audience back there.
Daughters of the band.
Daughters of the band. Thank you.
Far more sinister is what's buried deep within Project 2025, which any person who sends their child to public school should care about. They want to mandate that all students in schools receiving federal funding must complete the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. In plain English, that's a military entrance exam. If you flip to page 134 of the 900-page Project 2025 manifesto, you'll read this proposal, and I quote, "To improve military recruiters' access to secondary schools and require the completion of the Armed Services and Vocational Aptitude Battery, the military entrance examination, by all students in schools that receive federal funding." And guess who would be exempt from that requirement, since they don't get federal funds? Private school kids. You feel me now?
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Today in this special broadcast, we begin with the words of Frederick Douglass. Born into slavery around 1818, Douglas became a key leader of the abolitionist movement. On July 5th, 1852, in Rochester, New York, Frederick Douglass gave one of his most famous speeches, "What to the slave is your 4th of July?" He was addressing the Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society. The legendary actor James Earl Jones, who died last year on September 9th at the age of 93, read the historic address during a performance of Voices of a People's History of the United States, based on Howard Zinn's iconic book. The late great historian introduced the address.
Frederick Douglass, once a slave, became a brilliant and powerful leader of the anti-slavery movement. In 1852, he was asked to speak in celebration of the 4th of July.
Fellow citizens, pardon me, and allow me to ask.
Okay, well, thanks to Jim and all the folks that are going to be playing tomorrow again at Pacific Performances in Pacifica, California. So they're the federal judges. This is about the DOJ under Bondi and under Pam Bondi acting like Trump's mafia. And boys and girls. And but faced with Donald Trump's abuse of executive power, particularly in immigration and deportation cases, they may not have a choice. So it turns out that judges across jurisdictions are beginning to track each other's rulings, and they're reading filings in related cases. This is the judiciary working together better, really, than they're more organized than us right now on this level. So they're really saving us. They're connecting the dots. And in this past week, that quiet coordination exposed a deeply troubling contradiction, one that now demands a reckoning. At the center of it all, a secretive prison in El Salvador, a 20-year-old Venezuelan asylum seeker, and two conflicting stories, one told by the U.S. federal court by the Trump-era Department of Justice, and another told by the United Nations by the government of El Salvador. Now, they both can't be true. They can't both be true. Someone's lying, as Judge Gallagher in Maryland made clear this week. So what's the pattern of obstruction? So let's start with the basics. Chief Judge Boasberg in Washington, D.C. is currently presiding over a case involving over 100 Venezuelan nationals detained in the infamous CCOT prison in El Salvador. And they were deported during the Trump administration under murky, legal circumstances. And their attorney, led by Democracy Forever, have filed suit seeking their return. By the way, Google Democracy Forward, .com. When pressed by the courts about whether the U.S. maintains control over these detainees, the DOJ claimed it doesn't. And El Salvador insisted it's a sovereign nation and the prison belongs to them, and the United States has no authority there, no jurisdiction, no ability to act. And the answer didn't sit right. So Judge Boasberg allowed limited discovery. And then just last week, the UN, the United Nations, released a report in response to its own inquiry into the same issue. So the government of El Salvador responded plainly: the jurisdiction and legal responsibility for the detainees, all of a sudden, right, including those Venezuelans languishing in CCOT, lies not with them, but with the United States. Oh, what a flip, right? So that statement was submitted in writing through formal channels, is now part of the public record. So Gallagher's response: a judge demanded the truth. He said the filings did not stay confined to D.C. So Judge Paula Zinnis, who's been in the news in Maryland, right, has been overseeing a related deportation case involving a young man known in court records as Christian. Through media reports, have identified him as Daniel Loman Camargo. Judge Gallagher had previously ordered Christian returned to the U.S., and Trump administration DOJ responded with the same position that they gave Boasberg. El Salvador has jurisdiction, not us. Nothing we can do. But Gallagher has now seen the UN report, and she's had enough. Instead of issuing a formal order of setting a status conference, she did something rare. She wrote a letter directly to counsel and entered it into the docket. In that letter, she put it plainly, either the Trump administration lied to her about lacking jurisdiction over Christians' detention, or El Salvador lied to the United Nations. They both can't be telling the truth. So, quoting the UN filing directly, she highlighted El Salvador's admission that the prison used the prison's use is governed by a bilateral agreement, and that the legal responsibility for detainees lies exclusively with the foreign authorities, meaning the U.S. So everybody's sort of passing this on. But anyways, Judge Gallagher said, okay, I'm done with this stuff. She says she wants answers by July 15th. So what's the big picture? This is the Department of Injustice. This is not a Department of Justice. This is the DOJ misconduct and judicial pushback. This is not an isolated event. Judge Zinnes, in her handling of the Abrego Garcia case, another illegal deportation linked to the same prison, has also expressed deep concern over the DOJ's conduct. After unsatisfactory answers from DOJ attorneys, she ordered them to bring a live witness into court, swear them in, and testify under oath about the steps being taken to comply with her orders. She no longer trusts written updates. And that mistrust is well-founded. So Erez Ruveni, a former senior DOJ attorney with over 15 years in the Office of Immigration Litigation, recently submitted a 27-page whistleblower complaint alleging that under Trump, that DOJ officials ordered attorneys to lie to federal judges in deportation cases, specifically about jurisdiction, legal authority, and timelines. So Ruveni claims he was fired after telling the truth to Judge Zinnes. And his letter identifies Trump judicial nominee Emil Bove as one of the officials who allegedly orchestrated the deception. That guy could go to jail. And Pam Bondi could go to jail. And so Ruveni, he's no fringe figure. His former colleagues describe him as a straight shooter, an Eagle Scout, a Boy Scout, and by the books federal litigator. And, now they're investigating his claims. So the federal judges are taking notice. Okay, they're no longer treating each case in a vacuum. What began as individual lawsuits is starting to look like a broader pattern of institutional dishonesty. And the judiciary is pushing back. So it's a moment of reckoning. Okay, this is where we are now. 3 federal judges, Boasberg, Zinnes, and Gallagher, confronting conflicting facts in a federal government that appears to have misled them repeatedly. And these are serious moments. Judges are taking judicial notice of UN filings, and they're demanding sworn testimony. Okay, and the common denominator in each of these cases is the Trump-era Department of Justice. At every turn, the same narrative appears: deny jurisdiction, deflect responsibility, delay enforcement, but the facts are catching up, and now the courts are demanding answers. So the story's not over. Okay, we'll be following. Let's keep your eye on July 15th, the deadline for Gallagher's case. Okay, and Megatrends will report next week on what the DOJ files, and whether Pam Bondi whether the judge calls a hearing to address their response. But make no mistake, the judiciary is watching, and so we should all be watching. This is how accountability begins. So we're going to go to the next video here, and so pay attention. Right back.
Right now, dozens of clinics across Colorado are at risk of losing funding as the Trump administration freezes over $100 million for Title X. Up to 80 healthcare clinics in our state receive funding from the Title X Family Funding Program, which provides affordable services like breast cancer screenings, STI prevention, and birth control for low-income families. Colorado Children's Campaign says slashing Title X means Coloradans will lose $4 million in essential funding and a ton of critical resources for low-income individuals.
Title X funding and the services that it provides primarily serves underinsured or uninsured patients in Colorado. So these are folks who may not have any other access to any healthcare service and are coming to a Title X clinic for a really basic preventative service such as a pap smear checking for cervical cancer.
We're also told expanding the family services under Title X has actually reduced teen pregnancy by up to 50%. But if this funding is slashed, rising teen pregnancy rates won't be the only consequence.
Uncontroversial 50-plus-year-old program. Colorado gets about $4 million in these funds annually. This is a tiny fraction of the federal budget, and cutting this funding will literally result in the death of low-income women from preventable cancers.
Planned Parenthood told us they don't receive this funding in Colorado, but when other clinics have had funding revoked, like the Title X gag order from Trump's first presidency, the organization has to put up extra resources into helping women who now have literally nowhere else to go.
All right, so that is, we're going to go to the very next one, but you can see the chaos is the point, and the cruelty is the point, and a lot of people are going to be affected. And in the meantime, we have this president who it's not like he's president. It's just it's hard to say what he is, but he is just the worst possible situation. But elections have consequences, and we're going to talk about what's the status of things on Capitol Hill. This woman, Maria Newman, she's a House rep from Illinois, 3rd District, and she was taken out by AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. And we'll talk about that after this next video. This one is, I think, the very next one is. I have it listed somewhere. And let's listen carefully to that. Oh, yeah, this guy. Very, very important.
The 14th Amendment is not safe, and it never was. Hey, I'm Tad Sturmer. I'm a visiting scholar at the University of Southern Denmark. I'm still a lecturer at Johns Hopkins, and I'm the author of the forthcoming A Resistance History of the United States. Last weekend, I saw a lot of people breathing a little easier after the Supreme Court's ruling on nationwide injunctions on Friday. Lawyers, commentators, they rushed to clarify. This was procedural, they said. It didn't touch the merits of birthright citizenship, so don't panic. And they're right, technically. But the court's move, precisely because it didn't settle the substantive question, is telling. This court knows exactly how to leave the door open, especially when it wants a few more lower court rulings to line up with the outcome it and this regime prefers. This was not restraint, it was staging. So yeah, the ruling doesn't overturn the 14th Amendment, of course not, but it cleared a path for a more targeted and more comprehensive challenge designed to chip away at it from below before they deliver the major blow after they come back in October. This regime has already promised to walk that path. They're telling us plainly that birthright citizenship is absolutely on the table. But what's frustrating to me, got to get to that, is the number of people that still cling to the idea that the Constitution's language, especially the 14th Amendment, is somehow, self-executing? That it has to mean what it looks like it means to you. But that's not how this works, folks. That's never been how this works. The modern understanding of the 14th Amendment, equal protection, birthright, citizenship, due process, is just that. It's modern. For decades after its ratification, the courts twisted and narrowed its meaning even when the people who wrote it were still alive, telling them, no, it didn't mean that. The court said something else. The 14th Amendment that says anyone born in the United States is a citizen was used to exclude Chinese immigrants, sidestep indigenous authority, and rationalize racial segregation. Yeah, Wong Kim Ark, 1898, 30 years after the 14th Amendment was passed, it did uphold birthright citizenship 30 years later. But even that was a bitterly contested decision, and it was bitterly contested for Wong Kim Ark, who got arrested a couple of decades later. It didn't mean much in practice until the 1920s, and it wasn't until the 1950s and 1960s that courts began to build anything like the modern rights framework people now think of as settled. That's less than a lifetime ago for a lot of people. So it's not any kind of constitutional bedrock. That's not how the U.S. Constitution works. It's precedent. And as we know now, and as this court has made a pro sport out of, precedent can just be reversed. Meh. And if you want to understand how fragile even the idea of birthright citizenship has always been, especially for Black Americans, read my once and future colleague Martha Jones' Birthright Citizens. It's the definitive account of how free Black people in antebellum Baltimore fought for the rights that most white Americans still think were settled by statute or by amendment. They weren't. They had to be claimed and defended and redefined long before the 14th Amendment ever existed. And that fight isn't over. And the court knows that. And they're happy to open up a new front. In fact, they're counting on the public not knowing that. They'll claim, because they're laying this groundwork, they'll claim they're restoring the Constitution's original meaning. They'll quote early 19th century opinions. They'll reach back to, of course, the founders who made sharp distinctions between citizens, white, male, property-owning patriots, and inhabitants. Everyone else. This is very clear in the founding documents. This is very clear in the work of David Ramsey. This is very clear in the first citizenship laws passed by the first federal Congress. Stephen Miller has already deployed that exact logic. True citizenship belongs only to those who inherited it through the Revolution or earned it by naturalization, which was, for most of U.S. history, established by those patriots in the first federal Congress, limited to free white persons, explicitly excluding Black people and Indigenous people from citizenship forever. That long road is a different story, which leads us to the 14th Amendment being necessary in the first place. And no, this isn't just about Stephen Miller or this court. The real danger is the Constitution, is the structure. The Constitution, Article 3, gives the court no real guardrails. It doesn't define what rights mean. It doesn't force anyone to interpret it in good faith or give any kind of guidance about that. It leaves all of that up to the people in charge. American governance is just a risky trust exercise. And so when the people change, so does the meaning of the Constitution. We learned that with Dobbs 3 years ago. We saw what happens when an entire generation assumes precedent will hold and then it doesn't, no matter what the nominees to that court say in front of confirmation hearings. The same thing's happening now. Birthright citizenship is not guaranteed by some constitutional magic. It's guaranteed by 5 justices and 1 more challenge. The Constitution has never protected the people. It has always served the priorities of those interpreting it. So don't be reassured by procedural rulings. Be alarmed by what they make possible. And stop pretending the Constitution can't go sideways. It already has, many times before. If we want to resist what's coming, here's a resistance dispatch of the day. We have to start by telling the truth about the system we're in. Because the words on the page don't protect anyone. The people in power do. Or they don't. And right now, they don't. And tomorrow's not looking too good either.
Well, so anyway, that was something to walk away with, and that is that the people who really, there's nothing about the Constitution that's bedrock. It's empowered by the people that are in power. And precedent doesn't mean anything. We're going to go to this next video, which I think you'll find very interesting. And this has to do with, I think this is the one on about, again, the consequences of Trump policy, hiring the worst people to care for our public health. So let's go to that one, this next one here. Oh, no, yeah.
They passed the bill that is going to disproportionately move income from the lowest classes all the way up to billionaires, because the conservatives have taken their mask off, that they have never been a party for the people. And what I want you to do is, now is the most important time to keep learning and reading up on history and learning the truth about these, having hard copies of books in your house. Sleepwalking Through History by Hayes Johnson. Learn about the Reagan years, who helped propel a lot of these policies forward and is the reason for the massive student debt and intentionally attacked education so that lower and middle classes couldn't access it as easily. Intentional poverty in the U.S., evicted by Matthew Desmond. Keeping people poor is actually the point. If you want to learn the history of Christian nationalism and how they've abused religion and government, money, lies, and God and the power worshippers by Catherine Stewart. And speaking of the government, if you want to learn the truth about what the founding fathers thought about religion and the Constitution, The Founding Myth by Andrew Seidel, that our founding fathers were very, very clear on the separation of church and state and the freedom from religion, how the lack of data research and how the laws have disproportionately affected women, Invisible Women by Caroline Perez, and most importantly by Richard J. Evans, The Third Reich in Power. This one is a doozy, and she's a tough read, but I challenge you to go through it, see what's happening now, understand that the poverty is the point. It is intentional. These have never been fiscally responsible policies because Republican presidents have consistently outspent Democratic presidents. It has always been about hoarding wealth, resources, and education for the highest classes. Start to build your library so that you cannot be conned by these liars. Again, they have taken the mask off. We see them for what they really are, and we have a long fight ahead of us, but fight we will. Right? They did it.
That is the fight, and that's what I'm talking about. Presently, what I've noticed is before we go to this next video, is that I noticed that when I was interviewing some of the administrators at the school, that a friend of mine was freaking out. She said all their teachers are going to lose their jobs, and so I went there and interviewed them for a future Megatrends, and they really are. They caught with they don't know what to do. So now that's what they're doing right now. They're learning how to do political action, how to make democracy work. Unfortunately, people don't know how to make democracy work, and people are learning because there's no guidebook on how to do that. But let's go to this next video here, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of this is actually Dave Littman.
President Attack the Poor's Destroy America Bigly bill squeaked by both houses, with votes from people who somehow can look in the mirror when they sleep at night. 7 things everyone should know about the big, ugly fascist bill. It cuts $930 billion from Medicaid. 16 million will lose their health care. It slashes nutrition aid by $186 billion. Less income for the bottom 40% of families. Increases the debt by $3.3 trillion, spends $45 billion for immigration jails, and the usual billions for defense contractors, plus. And seizes money from renewables and gives it to oil. Several performers at the ginormous Glastonbury Music Festival in England, including Irish group Kneecap, subjected the fans to diatribes against genocide. Okay, cheering fans, but still, who goes to hear music that includes social commentary? It's practically illegal. In fact, it was censored on the BBC. Kneecap was seconded by the poetically named rap duo Bob Vylan, who chanted, "Death to the IDF." This was too much for the State Department, who hate death. I don't have to tell you the pain, the discomfort of going to a concert and being forced to take a communal stand for the oppressed of the world. I trust music fans will have no further brushes with the truth. Economists at Wells Fargo estimate that to rebuild U.S. manufacturing to President Tariff's standards would require new factories to hire 22 million workers, which would put a big dent in the unemployment rolls currently at 7.2 million. No one has ever seen the other 15 million workers. Not since the latest ice capades. Talking of which, Trump says he is deporting the worst of the worst first. Yet, for some reason, Elon Musk remains in the United States. Meantime, President Don't Tax My Friends is reassigning thousands of IRS agents from investigating wealthy tax evaders to serve instead as immigration officers, helping the super rich while hurting small and medium business owners by removing their workforce. Any future economic hardship and price rises in food, shelter, and clothing will be worth it to stop the tidal wave of hardened criminals charged with or convicted of speaking foreign languages in a white nation. Sending out an SOS. New York Governor Hochul has declared she is concerned that raising taxes on the rich will not make the city more affordable. The reason? Businesses and rich people will leave. So she will veto anything uncomfortable for the rich that might squeak by the ledge. Zoran Mamdani then is faced with a quandary. How does he bring socialist aid to the poor in a city, state, and nation ruled by the people whose job it is to keep them poor? Tough one. Maybe you can't have socialism in one city. We'll see. When Jackson, Mississippi tried to institute new programs for the poor, the state government defunded the city. So no news here. New York, the new Mississippi? This just in, the Democratic Party is not democratic. They can't decide who to champion, the rich or the rest of us, Israel or justice. They campaigned with Cheney, not Bernie. St. Obama bowed to the banks, paving the way for fascism. Oversimplified? I'm not sure. Nothing against the squad or any of the squad curious, but let's replace the rest. Not with young, shiny, copycat Power Rangers, but with people who tell the truth about... Wait, that's illegal now? Shit. It may interest someone to know that Trump's pastor, get this, he went to church as an aspiring young thug, was Norman Vincent Peale, who asserted that assertions are the most important thing, and fact-checking can only bring bad news. So feel-good exaggerations of one's own skills and character lead you to believe in yourself, and of course, only yourself. As with his flunkies, whatever you want to believe wipes out all inquisitiveness, science, and of course, opposition. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain much? President The Gays Love Me has taken Harvey Milk's name off a Navy ship. Wait, isn't the Navy gay? Hegman said, we are taking politics out of ship naming. Yeah, if you're using the alternative definition of politics. Anything that makes homophobes feel bad. The secretary of the Smithsonian Institution has been outed as a Democrat donor. Look for the museum complex to be closed and its holdings sold off at auction. The staff of the planned Museum of the American Latino will lose 29 of its 35 members, which makes sense, since that's the proportion of American Latinos who will be deported to make room for oppressed white South Africans. The other thing rising besides prices is police killings of pre-criminal black citizens, up 18% since 2019. We could use some cuts there, but the cutters are busy cutting food stamps, disaster relief, nursing home care, and hospitals. Get in line, people of unapproved pigments. It turns out that President My Lips Are Moving can say anything he wants, as long as it turns out to be a joke and he never said it, he says. But as a leading critic of Mr. Trump, a Mr. Voltaire, said, he who would persuade you to believe absurdities can persuade you to commit atrocities. On the other hand, with Trump up your rump, you never have to think about other people again.
you really have to love what's going on in New York City. I don't know about you, but I wasn't paying really that much attention to things happening in New York City. I live in Pacifica, California, and I don't know about but Jason probably feels the same way that the Zoran Mamdani, the Democratic candidate that won over the heavily funded Eric Adams, the the corrupt Eric Adams, who was like given a dispensation by President Trump. He was headed for prison, and then Andrew Cuomo. I mean, anything. I don't even need to say anything about him, but the Democratic Party put a lot of money into those guys because that's the kind of Democrats they think that the corporate Democrats or what is going on. But the people chose Zoran Mamdani, and that's the truth about what's going on. People who are informed. So, and of course, the Israeli lobby is just going crazy. It turns out that Maria Newman, she's a representative of Illinois 3rd District, was taken out by AIPAC, and in the Israeli lobby, she accomplished a lot in her one term, like 6 bills through in the House and 2 signed by President Biden. But the Dems need a plan. It turns out that they have to campaign. There's too much. The money in politics things means that they have to 323. I mean, they have to 4 to 6 hours a day. They have to do dialing for dollars. They can't actually legislate, do research, and do all the things that they need to do. But anyway, it turns out that 89, this is according to Maria Newman, that 89% of Congress takes PAC money, and 87% of Congress is owned by AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. The Democratic Majority for Israel, the United Democracy Project, and a dozen other faux PACs and affiliated groups networked to AIPAC. And these are the PACs that are funded the ousted progressive Democrats who are critical of U.S. policy with respect to Israel and the taxpayer funding of Netanyahu's genocide in Gaza that keeps him in power and prevents the Israeli courts from convicting him for fraud and corruption, essentially paying for Netanyahu's stay out of jail card and having him going to prison where he belongs. So again, that's what's happening, in the United States. But the people, truth still matters. Apparently, truth still matters, and people want a guy who talks the truth. You may have, and he, people in New York are going to elect him, and the Democrats, what are they going to do? So, what do we need? We need, I think, hopefully, this is the end of both the Democrats and the Republicans, and an independent person comes in and just changes the rules of the game. By the way, so this weekend, I just wanted to tell you that my friend Kate Kostopoulos, actress and singer and so on, she's going to be playing with Larry Vukovich, the pianist Larry Vukovich, and the sax player Noel Jukes at Mayhouse Jazz in Palo Alto. That's actually tomorrow. She has 2 shows, one from 5 to 8 and the other from 8 to 11. So I'm going to go to see that. But in the meantime, I thought I'd send us all out with a little bit of mandolin music, and that we'll see you next week for Megatrends, and we're going to have more information about the upcoming Carl Sagan Exoplanet Research Institute weekly workshops that are coming up, and that's going to be at Caltech in Pasadena, and I'm going to be attending that the 20th, July 20th through the 25th. So I'll be coming back with some information about the Gaia-sphere, which is that sphere with the Earth at the center with a radius of 100 light years. How many planets' atmospheres are we analyzing? So can we analyze and get data on within that range? So here we go. We'll see you next week.